Theo Kaczynski, also known as the unabomber, is most famous for his acts of domestic terrorism, in which he killed 3 and injured 23. His manifesto explores ideas of how industrial society has resulted in the destruction of what he refers to as the power process. Theo proposes that in order to lead a satisfying life, one must fulfill the power process by having a goal, working towards the said goal, and then attaining it. According to Theo, these steps are not present in industrial society. He gives the example of a hunter-gatherer society in which hunters would first watch their parents hunting as a child and then grow up learning how to hunt, before becoming proficient to be able to feed themselves. Living in a society like ours in which food, drink, shelter, and warmth are attained with little to no struggle destroys the power process. Theo states that to cope with this, those who have all the basic needs to survive often try to mimic the power process with surrogate activities. These include hobbies like learning to play a musical instrument, learning a new language, or reading books to gain knowledge. These so-called surrogate activities mimic the power process, each needing a goal, trying to achieve the goal and finally completing the goal. These surrogate activities are not enough, however, to satisfy a human's need for the power process and is simply mimicking that which more primitive societies have in their day-to-day lives. Another point is that industrial society erodes freedom without the knowledge of those inside it. An example he gives is that cars were once voluntary and seemed like a great step forward in science. At the start, it was completely optional, and most people did not own them. However, these days having a car is essential in countries like the United States of America, where all of the infrastructure is built with cars in mind. Unless you wish to be jobless in the US, you have no choice but to buy a car in order to go to work. This applies to a large number of items we use today. To name a recent rising one, social media. While just 10 years ago it was more of a niche topic, social media is slowly becoming more and more entwined with our society and most likely will be required in the years to come, as could be seen with cars. Kaczynski suggests that with each development there is also freedom lost, meaning we cannot remove some technology that benefits us and get rid of others. It all needs to go. Kaczynski mentions how the system, as he calls it, forces people to behave in ways unnatural to how humans been designed. Children are forced to spend hours learning science and maths, when they should be developing other parts of their brains, such as learning social hierarchies. This causes an increase in those who cannot fit in with the system, which can be seen today with school dropouts, gang members, and those who act differently from the norm like emos, punks and goths. This suggests also that an individual cannot control his fate anymore, and is instead controlled by the system, and whatever will make the most profit. He can make small changes in his life. He can go to bed earlier, or choose to stop drinking, but it will most likely make little difference to his fate. Theodore's solution is revolution, one that must happen all over the world at once, one that is most likely completely impossible. Critic of leftism. Theodore was particularly critical of leftism in his manifesto, and explains how he views and understands it. A quote from him sums up his opinion entirely: those who are most sensitive about politically incorrect terminology are not the average black ghetto dweller, Asian immigrant, abused woman or disabled person, but a minority of activists, many of whom do not even belong to any oppressed group but come from privileged strata of society. End quote. Theodore suggests that those who are leftists desire society to solve everyone's problems for them, as they lack confidence in themselves and believe they cannot solve these issues themselves, as deep down, as Kaczynski puts it, feel like a loser. He also mentions how, while leftists are often against violence, they somehow find excuses for the leftists to commit violent acts in the name of the left. Those violent acts, such as throwing Molotov cocktails or looting nearby houses during riots, are often excused by the average leftist as obviously, since they are doing it for a cause they believe in. Harming the very police officers they pay for and robbing non-involved shops and restaurants is excusable. Remember to keep in mind the fact that this was all written in 1995 and is becoming more and more relevant as the years go by. I'll left this section at the end as well. It is still very interesting. It does not relate entirely to the rest of the book, however it is worth including due to the relevance of this topic in the past few years.